tape your testimony and not the senator's. So if you could manipulate that in such a fashion that you're getting yourself in the frame there and not the senator's, that would be helpful. You all right?
Not good.
Well, it may be from Hamilton County, but it says here on my home sheet that it's
Claremont.
from Claremont County, so maybe you'll correct us on that. Come on forward, Mr. Hickson, and proceed when you're ready.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the opportunity to testify here. My name is Chris Hicks. I live at 444 Woodward Court, Cincinnati, Ohio, 45255, which is in Claremont County. So I appreciate the opportunity. I'm here to speak today in opposition to Senate Bill 252, by which, to me, certain Republican lawmakers seek to nullify four opinions of Republican Attorney General Mike DeWine, those being opinions 2017-034, 2017-035, 2017-036, and 2017-037, which all called out that county elected officials serving on Convention and Visitors Bureau boards, CVBs, is improper. I had a legislator describe this bill and its House counterpart, HB 530, as the, quote, fox guarding the henhouse bill. It would again allow a slush fund for elected officials comprised of tax dollars that can be spent without public records, open meetings, or public procurement rules. Some quick background points. CVBs are organized as 501c6 entities that are supposed to be, quote, business leagues, chambers of commerce, real estate boards, boards of trade, and professional sports leagues for the IRS. Typically, CVBs are funded 95% plus funded by tax revenue by the vet tax. Data on how much tax is involved is elusive. For 2015, $185 million in vet tax was collected in Ohio. Typically, at least one half of that goes to the CVBs. That is $92.5 million in tax dollars that are used and spent not subject to open meetings or public records. In Franklin County, as an example, we're talking about $48 million in vet tax in 2015. CVBs often claim to be independent, nonprofit entities and are almost completely non-transparent. They are not currently subject to open records, public meetings, or public procurement rules, and most fight hard to never reveal how tax dollars were used. Commissioners typically have CVB board appointment powers. That's county commissioners typically have CVB board appointment powers. And they decide who is to recognize CVB in a market, thus getting the hotel tax. Commissioners also vote on other matters relevant to CVBs in their commissioner capacity, for example, extra funding. A key opinion within the four Attorney General opinions is 2017-036, which held out that a county commissioner cannot serve on a CVB board for very simple reasons, not least of which is that the commissioners determine which CVB in a market gets tax revenue, and commissioners vote on a myriad of measures relating to the recognized CVB, including appointments and revenue measures. By allowing a commissioner to serve on a CVB board, Senate Bill 252 effectively gives a slush fund to a county commissioner when they serve on a CVB board. Remember that commissioners approve the monies going to the CVB, and then, if this bill stands, can sit as a director who is allowed to spend the funds in secret. In 2012, in Claremont County, elected Commissioner David Hubel took over the CVB in what he described in his own writing as a coup d'etat. He and another commissioner, Ed Humphrey, voted to replace the majority of the CVB board and fill it with government officials, including himself. He then used CVB monies to award several contracts to his business associates. He also had an additional, more secretive entity set up, which was the Claremont Sports Development Corporation, and was also controlled by elected officials while masquerading as an independent nonprofit. Local legal action is playing out regarding the Claremont County CVB, of which Mr. Hubel was a board and executive committee member, and $3.5 million over 5 years was spent without transparency, using a secret set of bylaws that allowed a small group to make spending decisions in secret from the overall CVB boards. It's ethically and morally repugnant. Senate Bill 252 attempts to legalize such behavior. I long ago discussed these issues with Senator Peterson, who I will note is not here at present, related to your version of the bill. I am sure there are powerful forces with deep pockets who want this bill.
Excuse me. There's a lot of senators who are not here right now.
Okay?
There's really no need to call out Senator Peterson by his other committee obligations that he's attending to. Please proceed.
All right. I am sure there are powerful forces with deep pockets who want this bill and will fight full transparency for tax dollar-funded CVBs and who want back the non-transparent slush fund these entities can provide. I think the public, however, is tired of those in our capital putting special interest over common sense. The AG opinion 2017-036 in particular raised key issues that Senator Peterson ignored. These included improper interest in a contract. The participation of a commissioner on a CVB is an improper interest in a contract. The commissioners authorize the funding via the hotel tax and can determine who is recognized as a CVB. Doing so while being a director of a CVB is a brazen conflict. And conflicting fiduciary responsibilities. The fiduciary responsibility of a commissioner is to the people, but a CVB board member has the fiduciary responsibility to the travel and tourism industry. That conflict where taxes are involved is not reconcilable. The role on the CVB and its fiduciary responsibility would, quote, mess with the ability of a commissioner to exercise their responsibility to the entire county. Additionally, the authors of this bill seem to fail to note that a 501c6 is subject to federal law and federal action. This is playing out in many ways by a gentleman in South Carolina named Skip Hoagland, who is pursuing lawsuits, IRS, and FBI intervention. Mr. Hoagland is fond of pointing out that on a national level, forensic audits of these entities performed by non-local entities, such as the FBI or IRS, result in criminal charges for misuse of funds in nearly 100% of all cases. I have noted on the House side that I think there was an amendment proposed. That amendment in part reads, a Convention and Visitors Bureau that receives funds under this section shall adopt an ethics policy to govern its members in the performance of their official duties and shall adopt a public records policy. What folly on two fronts? Why would there not be a simple statewide standard, namely open meetings and public records? Who can defend this? The real ultimate issue here is whether we all believe citizens have the right to a full accounting of how their tax dollars are spent. CVBs, which are 95% tax dollar funded, have become a dodge to open meetings and public records laws for elected officials and their staffs. Rather than working on bills like Senate Bill 252, I call on you all to focus on the real issues. Frankly, CVBs, any entity that is significantly tax dollar funded need to be subject to open records and public meeting rules. Simple. It is more than fair that the citizens are able to see how their tax monies are being used. A closing point. I wonder how many county elected officials on CVB boards have enjoyed trips. How many of their friends have gotten contracts? I cannot know, since CVBs funded by tax dollars are immune from transparency. I was pleased that Mike DeWine acted to stop a blatant incompatibility of office issue. But instead of fixing the core problem of transparency, you are considering legalizing brazen conflict of interest that involves tax dollars. It is disappointing today, to say the least, but I am hopeful that this will shed light on you and whether you side with the citizens who deserve tax dollar transparency or not. It's simple, the time has come for transparency. Thank you for the opportunity to make these remarks.
Are there any questions from the witness? Seeing none, thank you for your time and testimony. Our next witness is Robert Chip Hart, President of Hart Productions and a resident of Richmond, and here to testify in opposition as well. Mr. Hicks, you can turn that off now.
I'm not allowed to record his testimony?
No.
I thought I requested for both, but
No.
all right, I guess I'll turn it off.